Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this first day of February 2022. My name is Sam Gituko, and it's time we want to have that conversation with these chief administrative secretaries who are just about to go into elective politics. Some of them have been there, done that, but some are doing it for the first time. I want to introduce Honorable Gideon Mung'aro. He's the chief administrative secretary at the Devolution Ministry. Good morning.
Morning, thank you.
Honorable Mung'aro is also a former CAS at the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning. Earlier on, he served as a member of parliament for Malindi, later renamed to Kilifi North. Then we have on this side Engineer John Musonik. He is the Chief Administrative Secretary at the Petroleum and Mining Ministry. Earlier on, he was the Principal Secretary at the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, that time responsible for infrastructure. Good morning.
Morning.
And welcome to Citizen TV. Then we have Beatrice Alachi. Many know her. She is the Chief Administrative Secretary at the Public Service, Gender Affairs, Social Protection. What else have I left? And matters of senior citizens.
Special programs.
Yes, she has been here before, a former nominated senator and also a former speaker of the County Assembly of Nairobi. Good morning and welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Sam.
And they want to go into politics. For Honorable Gideon Mung'aro wants to go run for the seat of governor of Kilifi County. He tried in 2017, wasn't so lucky. You'll be telling us about that. Engineer John Musonik is going for the Bomet County governorship seat. I think this is your first time running.
Yeah, it's my first time. It's my first.
Great. And Honorable Alachi, which seat are you going for?
Back to Dagoretti North.
Dagoretti North, Member of Parliament. She tried that in 2017, wasn't so lucky. And I want us to begin by looking at the papers. On the front page of the Standard, you'll see that the main story there is shock. 10 billion shilling fine for corrupt four. It has now become painful to steal taxpayers' money after Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi imposes record fines on a corrupt NSSF official, his three private sector accomplices, and their firm after they diverted 1.2 billion shillings from pensioners. The trial lasted 12 years, you can imagine, since 2010. And you see the breakdown of those amounts. For Francis Moturi was an investment manager at NSSF when he caused the loss of 1.2 billion shillings, and the fine against him is 2.4 billion shillings. For Wilfred Weru, who was director of Discount Securities Limited, the fine is 802 million shillings. For Isaac Nyakundi, who was investment manager at DSL, the fine is 802 million shillings. And David Githaiga was executive director at the DSL, the fine is 802 million shillings. Then there's another story there. 7 killed, 13 injured in Mandera. A blast. Police arrest suspect after explosive device kills 7 minibus passengers and leaves 13 others hurt just days after terrorism alerts. Then on the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see big names on Azimio train. In the spirit of the gather all philosophy of principles, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, coalition lines up 13 parties to take on DP Ruto in August poll. So there is Jubilee, NAC, there is Ubuntu of Lee Kinyanjui, DAPK for Wafula Wamunyinyi, Muungano Party of Governor Kivutha Kibwana, PNU linked to Peter Munya, Pan-African Alliance, PAA, Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi, Maendeleo Chapchap, led by Governor Mutua, and Kenya United Party, led by West Pokot Governor John Lonyangapuo. Then that story of NSSF boss fined 2.4 billion shillings, you'll see there. Then at the top there is Tabitha, why I chose Ruto over Raila. Then so much more in there. Let me begin by talking about what just happened to this corruption case. And Honorable Alachi, we've been here on this show talking so much about the war against graft. Sometimes we've been told that it's been politicized, but now 12 years later, such a judgment comes from the magistrate court. What more do we need to see in this fight that appears to take so long a time, and many times it's politicized?
First of all, we need to thank Lawrence Mugambi, Chief Magistrate. And to just say, yes, I know it takes a long time. But you see, the most important thing is for us Kenyans to ask ourselves that if we really want to deal with corruption, which has become a culture in our lives, is that as much as we've stayed for 10 years, going forward, I think it's important for us to say, when we look at corruption cases, these are economic crimes. And sometimes even taking it through a whole process you'll find, for now we've taken 12 years. Definitely some of them maybe will not be having the money and all that. But if we are able to agree as a country that in 6 months you can finish economic crimes in courts, and the best you can do is fine them, fine and take back the resources, and take it back as earlier as possible, than waiting for 12 years. We are going to see now pull and back. But the most important thing, what he has done, he has opened the year 2022, a year of justice, of economic crimes, that we are going to see in courts people who have stolen public resources, returning public resources. I'm hoping it's a beginning, a good beginning for the courts, but at the same time, we are saying we must, and as a country, we must have a law. In economic crimes, 6 months. You should not stay in court for 6 months. And the most important thing is first take back the resources of public. Bring it back to the coffers so that it can go back and service people. But I know others will say, oh, we have to go through a justice system. If you have stolen public resources, honestly, you don't need to go through a justice system. People can just see your lifestyle. People can just see what you have. And evaluate that based on the salaries of this person, based on the businesses. He says, these are my businesses. And if it goes beyond the percentages we know you can make profit, then you should know you have stolen money and you have to return that money. So, yes. But I want to thank him that starting the year in 2022 and having this is the right direction for the judiciary to prove that they are able to follow these cases.
And Honorable Mungaro, I'll come back to you, Engineer Mosonek. Honorable Mungaro, so you've been in politics for quite some time, all the way from those days you were mayor in Malindi. But these are cases that keep coming on. I mean, when it's the utilization of public resources, sometimes embezzled, then sometimes there's no evidence, sometimes the war against graft is politicized, like what has happened in this administration that you have also been part of. So what are your suggestions, even as you go into the counties that you want to run for office? What are your suggestions on how to deal with these matters expeditiously?
I think there must be proper checks first within the organizations to be able to have interventions early enough before you get. I'm sure if you have proper systems within the organization and the county, you'll be able to know where issues are happening. I remember because when I was mayor of Malindi, such an incident happened, and before that time even anti-corruption had no systems. I realized when I was a mayor, although I was not executive, that I said to the treasury that I want to know how resources are coming to this municipality on a daily basis. And I discovered that the staff of the municipality were getting cash money, but then the next day when you check the reports, half of the money which came in cash has been banked into check form. And it was the staff of the treasury who had their checks booked somewhere. They take the cash and then they bank a check. The check bounces, but they monitor it through the registry. So you don't, it's not very easy to know, because if you don't check why was it cash which came in, but they banked check, a check. And I called in the DCI and they were arrested and they spent quite some time in jail. Yeah, I think they're out now. But basically, I think there must be quicker interventions by having systems within the internal audit or other systems which will be able to tell the management that there's something is going wrong.
Right.
Because otherwise, you will not. By the time you discover that people are stealing, if there are no systems, it will be rather too late. Because I'm sure, for all this 1.2 billion shilling, if there were proper systems, they would have been able when it was 200 million or 300 million.
Okay. And Engineer Mosonek, because you've had the privilege of serving as an accounting officer of a Ministry of Government, that is when you worked as PS of Infrastructure and later on as CAS, so you have that wider view of how ministries run. What do you think has been the progress made in ensuring that resources are not lost through the systems, because we are told of the IFMIS, but sometimes it's still used to swindle certain resources, if you're to quote the cases of National Youth Service and other parastatals that have been affected.
All right, again, thank you. Thank you, Sam. I want to agree with my colleagues that you see in any kind of organization, of course, we have proper systems which are in place. But I think the problem quite often is enforcing that kind of thing. And, you know, I'm looking more in terms of preventing more even than, I mean, doing things which once they happen. Now, I have in mind probably where I've worked before, you know, roads. I think those are areas which are really, if we are talking in terms of corruption, they can be very tempting in terms of, you know, because you meet with the contractors, you are dealing with a lot of money and so on. So more or less is, if I can remember, what we used to do actually is more carry out sensitization kind of programs. And then, you know, because we have proper systems, but those things still happen, you know, that is the thing. So I want to agree in the sense that it's more or less putting ourselves in a situation whereby being compromised. So the issue which I more or less is sensitizing the people within the organization, look at the implication apart from that, and then apart from that again is, should something happen? I don't quite agree or that, or I agree that it should not be able to take that long, you know. If something is quick, you dispense that kind of thing in a quick manner, then it has more implications than if you are to delay for 12 years. Mm-hmm. You know, that I think that is a problem. Delay will allow others really to happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that is probably, that is my opinion, mm-hmm. which I look at it.
But from your experience, whether it's within your ministry or even within government, how exactly do public officers or people that are connected get to steal resources that there's already a proper system?
Yeah, let's look at this. You see, quite often, some of these things are very, very difficult to detect because it starts all the way by design, all the way probably maybe it's from Treasury. It comes all the way until, you know, you design something. You can be able to design, let's say, a project. And then out of that project, maybe you can add 10% or whatever on top of that, or even whatever, 2 times or whatever. So I think the key issue is there must be a project, or there must be something probably which you're doing. And then once it's come down, it's more or less within the officers who are implementing. Quite often, that is where there is a problem. Because the Treasury disperses the money, and then the implementation team actually are the one probably which can be able, because they interact with the contractors, and then out of that kind of discussion actually can be able to come up in terms of how to increase or how to deplete, in fact, or how to do shoddy work, mm-hmm. which will not be able to match what was expected in terms of design. Some people also can do what you call under design. That is, they are not really what you call the kind of requirements. So out of that actually they can be able to get this kind of corruption. So I want to agree that still sensitization is a very, very key issue within the technical group, within the accountants, within the contractors. Mm-hmm. And again, quite often, Sam, what is happening is quite often also you attribute part of the corruption, but you see that it takes two to happen. Mm-hmm. We have the contractors, we have the people officers who are actually implementing this. But still, I believe that sensitization is a key issue, which should be able to prevent some of these things. Or prevent the kind of mechanism is more important than you wait until something happens, because mm-hmm. that time actually you'll have wasted, the public resources. Right.
And CS Mungaro, so when such kind of things happen, because there are several cases that have come up, and the Principal Secretary and the Cabinet Secretary have to be called to Parliament to explain what exactly is happening. So from your experience in government, how involved is the Principal Secretary? And if I'm to take a case of KEMSA, of course it's not your ministry, but you saw the PS being called to Parliament, you saw the managers of KEMSA, you saw the CS also being called there. How should you attribute this responsibility, yet we know that the Chief Accounting Officer is a PS?
I think when it comes to accounting, it's the Principal Secretary. But normally, nowadays, not like before when they were ministers, now with Cabinet Secretaries, the law changed a bit, and the PS, I think, needs to consult with the CS. But sometimes it depends, and CS Mosanik will tell you that some PSs, they believe they are the counting secretary, and half of the time probably cabinet secretaries are not even informed on what is going on. They will discover probably when they are being summoned in parliament that the PS went ahead with other officers and forwarded things without the knowledge of the CS. So it happens in some of these ministries. It depends if the PS in that particular ministry is always consult with the CS, or they believe, oh, I'm the accounting officer and they can go ahead and do it. But I've seen nowadays it has also brought many of them trouble.
The reason I'm asking this is because the two of you, you're seeking a county management executive offices, that is the county governor, and so it will be interesting to see how you'll manage your tenure if you're successful. But Honorable Elachi, as we conclude on this, so how has it been for you, especially in monitoring the utilization of resources? What has been your direct role at the Public Service Ministry?
Not just at the public ministry, because I would say in government, international government, as my two classes are saying, you find that I would say that the PSs, the accounting officers, are the accounting officers of every ministry. And they look at the different budgets, and as they say, you might find a CS will not even know some of those budgets. He will have to call in the PS to come and explain to you that this and this is about, we have these resources and we can do 1, 2, 3, most of the time. So they are like the custodians who understand where the projects are and all that. And so they advise the CS. But having said that, looking at the counties now, you see, when I was at Nairobi County, at that time you can monitor and you would see where there's misappropriation of funds, because you're the one who, with the MCAs, who will go through the budget. So the governor gives you his budget, you go through it, go through what has been agreed from the CIDP to what he wants to do. And if there's any gaps, you'll be able to advise him. And one of the things that I would say that has been the most weakest link in counties is especially when they are doing their employments. They never look at it in a budget form. They employ and then they come now, and you start now breaking off your budgets to sustain now an employment that you have brought in that was never budgeted for. And the good thing, there are mechanisms you can manage, because CRA will always tell you, this is your ceiling in terms of the staff you need, so that you are able to put it together with the budget you have. Most governors will always do it very different. And then the other thing they will do is you mop up all your resources and put it, the time you want it in health is when you mop. So one of the things as they go into the counties, can you please just define what we have said is for health, do it for health. What you have said is for devolved units, do it that way. What is for trade, let it be for trade. But when you come and you have done your budget and then you start collapsing again those budgets, that is why you end up into the challenges you face and the gaps you have. The other thing, even in the county assemblies, you find ourselves, you tend to remove resources, even resources of health. You take them to foreign trips. You take them, and you know, county assemblies are consumers. They are not a place where you are implementing to get more money to come in. What you have been given is you're consuming it all. You take it into public participation. So you're not bringing the way the governor will be looking for investments and collecting taxes. No. So even the county assemblies must relook and realize, if you have agreed this is money for foreign travel, if it is over, do not go and take your money for health, because you'll find yourselves at that time your members cannot even afford to go to hospital, which right now some counties, their members are even dying because of 70,000 they can't pay. The health providers are saying, you owe us a lot of money. What did they do? You went and you took money that was meant for health. Nairobi County is in the same. We have a patient in India who at this moment cannot get money because you finished even your ex gratia that you're supposed to support your staff, which is very unfortunate for them.
Okay, I hear you. And those are important lessons, especially for the two gentlemen here who want to be governors. I want us to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about these CASs who are in political office, their experiences while in government, and what informs their aspiration to run for various political offices. We'll also be spending some time to look at the election timelines and what they've been up to in the field as they look for votes. Stay tuned. Text in your views via 22422 or tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gituku. The hashtag to use is the break. We'll be back shortly.